Good morning, and thank you so much for tuning in with us. I'm Tishani Whitlow of BNC, and it's a historic day for us, right? Before I get into why it's so historic, I just want to let you know, on top of introducing myself yet again, I anchor the 1 to 3 p.m. show on BNC Live Monday through Friday, and I'm joined by the lovely
Michelle Fisher, the lovely. Thank you. I'll take it. Yes, my name's Michelle Fisher, and for those of you all who don't know, I work here at BNC on BNC Go's Morning Hype, which is our program that's on from 6 to 7 a.m. And then I also on Start Your Day as well with Mike and Sharon, contributing some daily news segments for them as well. So that's what I do here at the network. And because we work at Black News Channel, it is even more exciting and great when there is the confirmation happening for the first Black woman to be appointed to the Supreme Court.
who looks like us, right?
Looks like
identify. Excuse me. There's so many identifiable things that she brings to the table. You and I both worked in Boston together. She actually worked in Boston as well. But besides that connection, it's day 2 of the confirmation hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Today is going to be hot. She's going to be in the hot seat.
It is going to be hot. But before we get to day 2, we want to go over day 1 for
That's
sure.
True. That's true. In case you missed it.
And we also do want to let you know as well, very important, be sure to stick with BNC and tune in as we cover this historic, confirmation process that's happening. We have gavel to gavel coverage. Not only did we have it yesterday, not only we're going to have it today, but as this continues through the week, be sure to tune into not only our coverage as it happens, but also, the in-depth analysis that our anchors and also our commentators are able to offer after everything has wrapped up. So stick with BNC. This is the Black News Channel, and so oftentimes our coverage will, go a little bit deeper than maybe some of the legacy networks, and we just cover it from a different angle because we are people of color, and how we cover this story is a little bit different and in good ways.
Yeah, because it's the news that matters to you, right? I mean, it's not being watered down with other things that are happening, and no disrespect to those current events, but sometimes there are events like this that really kind of hit at your core, and you want to know more about it. You want to hear more about it. You want to follow it from beginning to end rather than be spoon-fed highlights, right? And so just to reiterate what Michelle said, this network, I mean, the coverage that you're going to get, deep analysis, right? Perspective from a Black view, which I'm sure you value.
Yeah, I was taking a break earlier this morning. I had a break between hits, and I was sitting in our green room, and there are 4 TVs in there all side by side. So we had, I guess
the other networks
on, right? And we also had BNC Go, which is BNC's streaming service, and we also had BNC Linear on. And on both BNC Go and BNC Linear, we had Ketanji Brown Jackson, and we had, a recap of day 1, and we were covering that. And at the same time, the 2 other networks that were on, very popular networks, had Ukraine. And not to say that both are very important, but that's just to give you an example of how, our coverage, sometimes can look different than...
And it's unique.
Yes, it's unique and look different and cover different things at different times.
Absolutely.
Because that was at the beginning of 7 a.m. this morning. So our top story was one thing.
We were hitting you.
Right. And
hitting you
some of the other networks had a different top story. So this week, for sure, the confirmation process and hearing for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is our top story, and we are covering it from beginning to end, and it's so exciting. So what did you think, Tishani, of day 1? Like, what were your big takeaways? It was a long day, but
we're talking about hours of opening statements, the 22-member Senate Judiciary Committee, all speaking for several minutes, right? And I mean, she just sat so stoic and poised. And even when Senator Josh Hawley, for example, I mean, really, he came for her. One thing I definitely want to point out before I get into that is Democrats praised her. That was like right out the gate, right? They talked about the historic factor, how she is probably one of the most qualified or would be, if confirmed, justices on the bench. The fact that she was a public defender. A senator mentioned that there has not been another one since Thurgood Marshall that actually was a public defender. And practice. And so I also noticed that even through that, right, when Republicans kind of came for her out the gate, they just said, listen, one of the senators said, this isn't about race. This is about us digging deep and getting the answers that we need from you, right? Because there are some key issues that Americans are facing right now, and some senators aren't really sure where she stands on that. For instance, like Senator Ted Cruz, he mentioned, hey, are you, and I'm going to paraphrase here, right? Are you going to be a puppet for the White House?
Right.
Are you going to defend American values? You know, the Second Amendment, gun rights control. We also know that those are also issues that the Supreme Court, they're hearing those cases right now. Abortion, gun rights, voting. These are all major key issues. And so they're interested in knowing where she stands on that. And another thing that stood out to me as well is the fact that she covered all gamuts when she finally spoke. Right?
Yeah. I want to touch on something before you get to that, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
You know, you mentioned how the Republicans came for her, and you know the Democrats how they praised her, and we know
Yes.
we've seen these confirmation hearings before, and that's kind of how it goes, right? If it, you know, depending on when you get nominated and who nominates you in terms of the president's party, you know that the other party is going to kind of come for you, so that's to be expected. But I think what's important,
It's so divided.
what's
now.
important is how she has to conduct herself as a Black woman,
Absolutely.
right? Because she knows, and we know, that she can't, even if they're saying, oh, you're too lenient on child pornography offenders or whatever, she has to grin and bear it,
I mean,
quite literally, and stay poised, because the narrative will then become, oh, she's angry Black woman, she got attitude problems. If she
Child.
even reacts,
if
which
she
would be a
even
natural reaction to someone kind of
annoyed.
you know, kind of changing the narrative a little bit, trying to take your, you know, rulings as a judge out of context and use them against you. Anybody would be annoyed and like, oh, well, that's not real. But she knows that she has to, you know, it's the same thing, right, that we saw with Barack Obama during his pregnancy. I'm kind of, I mean, not presidency. I'm kind of getting off. I'm kind of getting off topic. But what I'm saying is, we know
We
that as
have
Black
to be
people, we have
perfect.
to conduct ourselves a different way, even
And
when
we
we're
have to
under the
work
same
harder.
heat, under the same fire.
Yes.
So just her being poised is one thing, but I think when you put it into the context of she has to be, because she has no other choice, because if not, then it becomes, okay, well, let's tear her down because she's got an attitude problem or whatever.
Yeah.
That to me just makes it even more proud, you know, to be like, and she just handles herself with such grace and such poise. So
As we do.
Yes.
I mean,
and
as we
try
do.
to. Some
Yeah.
days I fall short, but
Hey, that's the human in me.
right. I just, you know, I'm self-deprecating. But anyway.
But one thing I want to highlight is that there was like a calmness
Mhm.
yesterday that I don't think we saw in the two previous confirmations, right? Brett Kavanaugh, that was like ugly, right? It was like attack, like on all ends. Like senators were attacked, he was attacked, his character was attacked.
Yeah.
And one senator mentioned that. He's like, hey, we're not going to drag you through what Brett Kavanaugh went through. We're not going to, you know, he was ultimately accused of being, and his words were, Bill Cosby.
Okay.
Those were his words. If you watch the hearing, those were his words.
Well, it also helps if you don't have those accusations against you. It's like, you know.
And also with Amy Coney Barrett, when she was confirmed, there was a lot of contention, right? In terms of where she stood on Roe versus Wade. And some would say we kind of, there are still some unanswered questions regarding that. But nonetheless, those two were confirmed. And she's expected to be confirmed as well, right? I mean, that's only if Democrats stick together, though. I mean, they have a slim majority, and that's only with VP.
Yeah.
Madam VP Harris casting that deciding vote. So if all 50 align, then they won't need the support of Republicans. And might I add, she's crossed this bridge.
Yeah.
Not once, not twice, not three times. This is the fourth time.
But they do want Republican
And she got
support.
Republican support, 3.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like,
The White House ideally would like, you know, the Republican support, you know, at
Of
least
course,
some, because then it's like
bipartisan
this
support.
bipartisanship, look at how great she is. And really, if the members of the Senate Judiciary Committee and everybody that's involved is, you know, doing what they're supposed to do and really listening and taking her record and just being fair and unbiased when it comes to her confirmation, then she should get Republican support. I mean,
I get
unless they're
that.
just trying to stay on party lines, but we'll see how
You
it goes.
know.
We know how these things go. It's not our
True
first
that.
rodeo.
And another thing, like I mentioned, and I want to drive this message home for folks at home who aren't aware. She's been through this process, right? She's been through this process. She just went through this in June. Nothing has changed about her background.
Yeah.
I mean, this is day 2, right? It's 4 days of hearings, and then it swings back to the Senate for them to cast that final vote. But this should be easy.
Yeah. It'll be interesting.
One would think.
It'll be interesting to see if those individuals who you just named, and I know there was a handful, if they switch up and change, you know, their votes this time around. But
Yeah,
I guess we'll wait and see.
As my grandfather would say, flip like cheetah, right? I mean, just like flip it. But we're having a lot of fun. What were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I just was gonna talk about, you know, this is probably bad to say, but to me, the highlight certainly was after all 22 members had given their opening statements. It's like, okay, now we finally get to hear from her. Let's hear what she has to say.
Yes.
And that was the exciting part for me.
It
And I
was.
think a lot of people, for me, as you know, just a Black woman, and just I felt some pride. You know,
Absolutely.
she is only, if I'm being completely transparent, she's come on my radar most recently as we're you know, covering her nomination. So I don't know terribly too much about her. It's not like I've been a fan for years or decades even, but I do really feel proud, you know, when she is up there talking. And I even became emotional. I was crying during her speech. I'm like, I think for me, it was like her husband crying too, because it's just like that love and how sweet that was. But, you know, some of the things that stood out from her opening statement to me is just how broad she made sure her appeal was.
Absolutely. To everyone.
To everyone.
Yeah.
You know, she touched on her African heritage and her Blackness with explaining what her name means.
Yes.
And
Lovely one.
Lovely one. Yes, it is. Lovely one. That's what it means. Also acknowledging Constance Baker Motley, you know, who's the first woman to serve as a U.S. federal judge. So that I was like, okay, yes, she's representing, you know, putting on for the culture, but she also spoke to what it's like to be a mom and what it's like to be a working mom. Her daughters were in the audience, and her husband was there.
Yes.
She, you know, spoke about her brother who joined the military after 9/11. So obviously that speaks to the respect that she has for, you know, military and law enforcement, and then
her
too
family.
just her parents being there, and that
From
spoke to the
military
American dream of saying, look, my parents worked hard and we had to move, and my dad was in law school and my mom was working, and so just to me that was the main takeaway. Is like, what I feel like some of the other judges that have recently been confirmed don't have that broad of an appeal. They can't speak to that many different sectors of the country, and it's really interesting because whenever her nomination first came up, I feel like the narrative by some Republicans was, oh, well,
it's affirmative action.
Right,
They're
and
her
being a Black woman is gonna limit who she can speak to.
Which is so
but
true.
She's proving that it's the opposite, that even though, you know, she is a Black woman, that she still has this full life and career that is really going to make her a great, you know, judge on the Supreme Court of the United States. So
I think what that brings to light is the fact that sometimes as Black people, we are seen first as a color, right? And then not recognizing that we're not monolithic, right? There are layers to us, just like there are layers to everyone else, right? But sometimes we are unable to deviate out of that box that we're placed in. And just to speak to what you were talking about, the fact that she was so broad, right? But let's bring this full circle, right? In the 233-year history of the High Court, she would be the 3rd Black justice, the 3rd, and the 6th woman, So I say that in terms of it's time. I mean, if not now, then when? If not her, then who? Right. And I know, like, you know, one of the senators kind of had somewhat of a pity party where he took the attention briefly off her nomination and spoke to the fact that his nominee that he wanted, even though he had no power to choose because he's not president, Judge Michelle Childs was not chosen, and that he felt that she received unfair treatment. And it was like, for me, it was like, don't take the spotlight away from her. This is a historic moment, not only for her family, but also the culture. Like, just let her have that. And we all know that can be a thing, you know, putting people against each other and different. But I do just want to take 1 second and say for our viewers, thank you so much for sticking with us.
But if you're enjoying this conversation, again, just a moment to highlight these are the type of conversations and commentary that's happening all day, every day on the Black News Channel.
It's just real.
It's just real, unfiltered, and again, from
Totally.
the perspective of living it, being Black women in professional realm, and how we have to juggle things. And again, gavel to gavel coverage today. When it starts, it hasn't kicked off yet. I'm sure they're in Washington, busy morning getting ready for everything. But when it kicks off today at 10, we will have gavel to gavel coverage on BNC, also BNC Go, our streaming arm. And also before that, coming up at 9 o'clock, we also have special coverage that kicks off with in-depth analysis and commentary. Del Walters, yes, Del.
I was going to call him Uncle Del. And I know he'll probably say, "Child, I ain't your uncle," but
yes.
It just gives me uncle vibes. I love Del.
Yes, so he'll have a lot to add to the conversation for sure.
Totally.
Let's talk about what's expected on today. We know it's going to be a long day. So the schedule for today, in case you're wondering, in case you're trying to schedule this around what else you have going on, 30 minutes each, I understand.
Yes. To grill her.
To grill her. And there are 11 Democrats, 11 Republicans on the panel.
To represent the Senate.
And questioning will likely stretch late into the evening. I mean, if you can imagine, that's a long time. They
to be sitting.
That's like a lunch break at some point. So that's what's on the schedule for today. And we know, just based off some of the stuff we heard yesterday, I feel like yesterday is kind of a teaser. It was kind of like, just so you know, this is my opening statement. You can go home and get ready for what I got coming at you tomorrow.
Because you need to get ready.
Yeah.
And she was taking notes, especially for Senator Josh Hawley, when he's like,
yeah.
I am basically coming up and I'm going after you for some of your sentencing practices, accusing her of being soft on crime.
And soft on child porn sentences. But, based off my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that she, in terms of the sentences, was on par with the standard federal sentencing for child pornography offenders. So
that's what
that's a different
fellow
conversation.
judges have said.
Yeah. So I will say though, whatever comes her way, she will handle it with grace and poise. Because like you said again, she's not new to this. She's true to this. This is her fourth time. This is her fourth time doing this. And that just all things work together for good, because I just all those times when she was doing it, she had no way to know, right, that she was going to be nominated for the Supreme Court one day. But those were all practices and a setup for where God would eventually bring her to. So that's beautiful.
So I want to add to that, because I actually watched something where her girlfriends from college spoke about, because she's a two-time Harvard grad, right?
Yeah, smart.
They spoke about, extremely smart, spoke about how when they first met, there was just something about her. And one of her friends actually said it, you are destined for the Supreme Court. You will be the first Black female Supreme Court justice. So for this to come full circle, I just can't imagine how she feels. But we're watching right now. They are in the Senate hearing. I'm looking right now to my right because that's where the monitor is. And so we want to, again, direct you, right, Michelle, to head over to BNC. Turn your TV on. Turn it on. Now, I know if you got Comcast, it's 11:16, because I got Comcast. Now, if you have other providers, you have to do a Google search. You just tune in and say, what is that? You hold the remote and you say BNC or Black News Channel, and it'll pop right up for you.
Okay. So also, too, I'm getting a little special note, something else we want to highlight about Judge Jackson. Her daughter, I guess, wrote a note letter to Obama on her behalf.
She did.
To praise her mom, and I thought her daughters were so sweet in the audience, especially her, her one daughter that's a little bit younger, and you could see the excitement in her eyes.
And that letter was cute.
Senator Cory Booker shared that yesterday. So,
I think about the significance of it too.
And I think the significance of what you just said about the girlfriends is, and this is just a little nugget out there the people that you have around you are so important to your destiny.
Absolutely.
Just to offer you encouragement, to offer motivation. Because imagine just all the obstacles or tough times. You can imagine going to school at Harvard and how tough it probably is some days, like law school at Harvard. I can only imagine. I know,
And her class picture.
The
two Black. They showed a photo of her, and it was her and another black woman surrounded by
Right.
the majority of white men.
White men. Imagine what that had to have been like. But she had friends and girlfriends and classmates and roommates that were constantly encouraging her. And imagine that versus, oh yeah, that's just how it is, or somebody that had maybe a more negative stance on it. She might not be where she is today. So that just speaks to the importance of having people around you
Strong
in your corner.
village.
Yeah, to motivate you and continue
Totally.
to help you get where you're supposed to be in life. So
And you know that. I mean, Michelle, we have been in this business for some time. And I think I have openly shared this on air, but this is the first time where I'm working in a newsroom and folks look like me.
yeah.
I mean, from the top to the bottom, where I am encouraged and I am inspired. Not that I wasn't previously, but I guess there's more of a relaxedness or comfortability. Do you understand what I'm saying when I say that? And so that just speaks to why it is so important to have your village.
Yeah.
Because when we were in those situations, right, it was your village that kept you inspired to say you are ordained for this. This is what
and I
you
think
were meant to
sometimes we were each other's village because
Yes.
our desks used to be beside each other. And
Yes.
we're like, okay, girl, it was a rough day. Let a little pep talk. It's gonna be okay. Like sitting there, and now we work together at Black News Channel. Before we wrap up though, because I feel like we're just about to start the network's coverage, but
Yes.
we want to again just highlight the significance of this historic nomination. To she's the daughter of two parents.
Working Americans.
Right, working Americans.
Right? No silver spoon.
Born in the Jim Crow era, and just from the time of her birth, she's early 50s, I believe.
51.
51.
Yep. Yes.
To now, how much change and just beauty is able to come of that. 2 HBCU grads. We're so proud of her and so happy for her. So again, just stick with BNC throughout the day for coverage, gavel to gavel. Here on our network
For everything.
Yes, as we cover this historic or herstorik, we like to say,
Yes.
nomination of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Absolutely.